this year. So we're sort of reinventing what we're best known. So we're doubling down on what we're best known for, but now spreading into other facets. So to answer your question, no genre is off limits.
Okay. So get ambitious and report to African Magic. While Mr. Victor is there, you could be very lucky. All right, let's move on to Mr. Chris. I know that it's same thing, acquiring for distribution, but do you also keep the kind of genre? Is there a specific genre that you think that works in terms of distribution?
So in terms of, I guess, kind of speaking to research and how we get feedback from the marketplace and things like that, I guess it comes from two places. Really, there's our internal sales team, which is constantly in communication with the different global streaming platforms of Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, all the AVOD platforms, Tubi, Roku, Pluto, Crackle, places like that, that are just US. And we're talking to them, and they're telling us what they're looking for, and so they're giving me feedback of, hey, when you go out to this film festival, or you go out here, here's what everybody's asking for, here's what we should have. But also, a lot of that is informed by my previous job, where I worked at Crackle, which was an AVOD streaming service. And in the US, at least, the distribution marketplace has moved in a way where a lot of, as the subscription services are fighting to maintain a subscriber pool, and that market is shifting. There's been a lot of growth in the AVOD or ad-supported video-on-demand platforms. So things that work in the same basic format as YouTube, but different forms of that, different iterations off the ad-supported model. And these platforms have really grown a lot, and their audience has informed a lot more of what we're looking for now, and a lot of that is kind of broad, accessible, and diverse in terms of what that is. So genres of action, thriller, horror, these are things that kind of the American AVOD audience seems to be interested in. So that's kind of shaping in that direction.
All right, let me just get a little bit specific with you. So you mentioned that they tell you, the kind of things they're looking for. I think I'll speak for all of us here when I say, what are those things that they tell you? Do they go like, okay, maybe we need more African films or TV shows in African languages, or, maybe love, maybe drama, maybe culture, What are those very specific words that they use when they tell you, oh, we're looking for this content?
Of course. I think a lot of times the specifics that they tell us are things like, we would like a film that has had a 20-screen US theatrical release minimum, or something that has had a $5 million US budget, or something that has an American actor that we recognize, or that has been in a TV show. And what names I could throw out off the top of my head are meaningless, because to me they vary from executive to executive that you speak to. Someone at Amazon, you speak to them and they'll tell you something that has done well for them on a particular show. Someone on Netflix will tell you something else. And then from us, being in the kind of position we're in as these distributors, sometimes we'll acquire a film that has a star from a Netflix show. We had a feature film, the perfect example, we had a feature film that starred someone who was in a Netflix series that was doing really well. And we thought, this is a slam dunk. Netflix has all the data. They know this person is tapped into their audience. They're going to want this film. They didn't want the film. So I think a lot of it is their mandate is shifting as they're constantly getting feedback from data. Their acquisitions model is shifting. I think specifically in the US, a lot of the streaming platforms have stopped acquiring a lot of domestic, independently produced film and TV shows as they've expanded their footprint globally. And they focus more on originals in the US, or maybe they bid to death over the 1 to 2 things that win Sundance every year. But outside of that, it's a lot of kind of them expanding their global footprint.
Okay, all right. A lot of information to take in. So let's move on to the point where we've gotten an idea of the target audience that they want, the kind of content they want. So let's say your content gets in the room, leads to my next question, negotiations. So I know that maybe, we're not allowed to give us an actual prize. That's not what I'm asking. But it's more of, it's more of when it comes to negotiation, the approach you take to this, to negotiating. Is there like a range of maybe from this figure to this figure for this type of films? For this figure to that figure for a film with this certain actor or this certain, production value. And when things like this happen, have there been moments where the range that you have in mind, a film has pushed past that range and you bought it? And why? So that's my question.
So yeah, like you rightfully said, of course we're not going to be talking figures, but there's nothing like a one-size-fits-all kind of situation when it comes to creative content. So the price that I buy this might be why, and some of the reasons might even be peculiar to the buyer at hand. Yeah, there might be peculiar reasons. Sometimes it might be about the story. And quality now, I feel like at this stage that we're in Nigeria, it's going to be very funny for a filmmaker to churn out movies that the quality is not high. I feel like quality now is like a given. It's not like before where we're thinking, oh, the sound is bad. I don't know if that still happens, but all the quality of films I've been seeing lately, like, I feel like quality is not a discussion we should be having. It's something that should already exist. So now we need to talk about the story, the kind of story that you're telling. Are you telling the story that we're tired of hearing, the rich family kind of stories and all of that? There was a story I always say to people. So before I got the opportunity to travel internationally to America, I already lived in America. I'm sure that sounds confusing. So I grew up watching a lot of foreign content. Like I grew up consuming a lot of foreign content. The first day I set my foot in New York, it didn't feel different. It felt like I've lived in the city. So I went to school there. In fact, the lady who was originally from New York, we're conversing. She was like, are you sure you've not lived here? So we need to tell stories that gives that kind of feeling, such that people internationally can almost say that, okay, they know about Nigeria. Because I feel like the kind of stories that we tell nowadays are quite plastic. It doesn't really depict who we are. So we need to move away from those aspirational, like, who are you aspiring to be? Like, the international guys they're already there. There's no amount of aspiration that we can have now that will never reach them. But I feel like our uniqueness is in who we are. So I feel we should project that more in the kind of stories that we tell. Because even in Hollywood now, stories there are getting stale. Like, what's happening in Hollywood now is that they're retelling stories. But I feel like in Africa, we have a lot of stories that have not been told. Like, we have a lot of raw materials that people are not looking at. So I'd like to encourage filmmakers here to actually tap into that space and tell stories that when somebody internationally is watching you, they're like, wow, okay, so, they can even identify places in Nigeria. I could identify places in New York, and I've never been to New York. It was very strange when I went there. I was like, why does it feel like I've lived here? So I don't think our Nigerian stories are doing that yet.
Like travel to places, explore Nigeria in your film, the culture, the place.
Yes, we need to be less plastic about how, I'm not saying that we should tell like negative stories, but we need to project our reality more in our films, such that somebody who is watching internationally can almost touch Nigeria and be like, oh, I've been to Nigeria before mentally. Yeah.
So, pushing back to this price part of it. So when someone does that.
Okay, price, yeah. So I was using that to say that, you mentioned, so the quality of a particular movie. So there are different variations as to why, we put money on a particular project. So that's why I said there's no like one size fits all kind of situation. And then the person who is putting their foot forward needs to have the right negotiation skill. So because I bought a particular movie, like Victor Sanchez can sell anything. I know him personally. So if Victor Sanchez now comes to pitch a story to you, you're going to want to buy. This quality of films might be a par with your quality of film, but your ability to negotiate also matters. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, but look, I agree with everything she said. I'm going to keep mine really short and sharp. One, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Two, nobody's doing anybody a favor. The guy buying from you and you selling, neither of us is doing each other a favor, right? We're in a business transaction. So if you want the company's resources, you should be giving them value. Really simple. The problem is, on the company side, people tend to hide what is valuable to them. So she's telling you now that they're looking for stuff. Some smart ones have noted it. They're looking for stuff that is less plastic, that is more relatable, that has access to places we haven't seen a million times. The smart people have noted that, right? It's very rare that the company will tell you what they're looking for before you arrive. If you get in the room, be smart enough to listen more than you talk. In terms of where I represent, do we have price ranges? Yes. I'm going to assume most people in the room are filmmakers. Therefore, we approach this the same way as a director or a producer you would approach an audition. You have a character you're looking for, but sometimes somebody walks in the door that causes you to rewrite the whole script. And you'll be like, yeah, that character is no longer tall, he's now 5'2", because this guy kills it better. You know what I mean? So there is a range, but that range can change depending on who walks in the room. But yeah, I think that answers your question. Is there any part of your question I haven't answered?
Yes, it does. It does. Okay, I'll come back to you guys in a minute. I can see some hands, so I'm coming. Just let's arrive. All right, Mr. Gray.
All right. Gosh, the numbers question. So, yes, it's a range. Yes, I think the first thing I'll point out is that a lot of people don't know about companies like Freestyle or entertainment studios because they know of the end user platform. They know of the Amazon or the Netflix or the Hulu. And a lot of people in the audience are probably like, well, if they want my film, why can't they just buy it from me? That's what they do. Netflix will just acquire films from filmmakers and production companies. And they do. If they want something, they go and get it. And our company is in an awkward and interesting position in the marketplace where our #1 customers are also our #1 competitors in terms of bidding. And if Netflix wants to acquire something directly that I am also interested in, and we see the same film at the festival, and I've gone to festivals before where I've sat down in the theater and I'll sit down next to somebody from Hulu and I go, okay, well, I guess that's it. Because I can't compete with the amount of money that they have, these companies, and it doesn't make sense for me to outbid them and then try to sell it back to them. There's no way that makes sense as a business model. So what often I'm getting are things that maybe they didn't see, maybe they didn't cover, maybe no one was aware of on their team, and maybe it's something that while they were bidding after that one thing, maybe there was something down, in the lower price range that I was able to get. Because for us, because we're selling all rights, we're not just selling to them, we're also trying to sell to airlines, we're also trying to sell DVDs, we're also trying to sell occasionally doing small theatrical releases or wide theatrical releases for some of our bigger projects. We're trying to make money in many different places in the marketplace, and so we have to look at the model holistically. And beyond a certain threshold, then we have to consider a theatrical release and what that cost would be, because then it becomes about us recouping the money theatrically. And a lot of times the amount of money I spend is based on what our sales and accounting teams believe that the rest of the marketplace can support. And if the streaming services have stopped acquiring, the number goes down, or it gets towards the end of the year and people say, oh, we're not buying anything until January, then it's like, all right, well, you better slow down your pace. The numbers are all coming down that we're offering. So it's definitely a moving target. And if anyone had, I think when people ask me for specifics, my instinct is always to ask them for specifics, because you want a specific number for me, then you describe your film to me. You give me a pitch, tell me who's in it, tell me what your budget was, show me a trailer, and I could tell you probably what I think I could get out of my company for it to buy it. But that's like, I need more information, and then I need to go report. I have people to report to and a team to talk to, but that's kind of it.
Okay, I just want to ask you a question, Mr. Gray, because you mentioned also in terms of the period that, buying prices are higher. Does it affect your acquisition as well? Do you go like, okay, I know that this can go to Amazon, or this can go to a certain streaming platform, but at this point they are taking projects like this for this amount, I can't buy it, so hold up, wait till. Does that happen?
Yes, yeah, and sometimes it happens where you think, okay, we have, and sometimes we've been in awkward positions where our sales team will be talking to someone on a major platform and we'll say, we're thinking of acquiring this film. Would you be interested in licensing it for this period? And we factor that in and we go, okay, they're going to license it. And then by the time we close the deal, their mandate has shifted and they say, well, maybe we're still interested, but maybe less now. And it's really always we're trying to balance and trying to figure out the right price. So.
Okay, this is a very good introduction to my very last question, and then I'm going to move to the audience. If I move to the audience, I'm going to conclude this question side with just one line from Mr. Victor. You do not get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate for. So go and take negotiating classes, and you can go to Mr. Victor and say, tell him I need 500 million for this film. Understand? And I don't know if you get it, but just saying. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate for. Okay, so going to my question before we go to the audience is the case of original content. Balancing original content and commissioned or is exclusive licensing deals. I would want to know, sometimes for maybe original content, it could be from idea, the conception stage that you guys get involved. But are there times when you see a film and then you decide, no, we want to make this an original? And what are the factors that get to that? Or maybe say an exclusive licensing deal or something like that. But what are those things that would get you to balance between being an original film, or getting an exclusive deal, or just leaving it as a commission project?
Yeah, the major, it's simple. You see a movie and for us, like I said, we have a metric internally that I'll try to tell you that this film is going to be a blockbuster. So once you land a blockbuster like that, I think it only makes sense for you to keep it to yourself exclusively. So the ones that are not so in that level can now then be licensed for a particular period. So yeah, so it's an easy process for us.
What of when it's still on the idea phase, just concept?
Idea phase, so that means you're talking full commissioning. So you have an idea, and then another thing I would also like to add. So at Paramount, what we like to do a lot of co-productions. Because I find that, especially from where I'm coming from, when you fully commission somebody's projects, it's a different format when you guys are in co-production together. The person is as invested in the project as you are. And this will also give you an opportunity as a filmmaker to have that property as yours. Because you do a full 100% commissioning with a TV network, even though it's your idea, the network owns that property forever. Fine, you have that instant gratification of, okay, they gave me so amount of money. It will finish at the end of the day. But how about you do a co-production where you can have this forever? Friends is still making money, So instead of giving everything to this TV network to keep making money in perpetuity, I think it's nice for filmmakers to open their minds up to the idea of co-production, which is a model we're trying to push in Paramount Africa. So beyond even that aspect of it also favoring the filmmaker in the long run, we find that if you're putting your money into the project as well, you're as invested as we are in the project. You want this to succeed, we want this to succeed. I don't have to pursue you and make sure it's right because you invested your money into it. So that's the model that we are also adopting. So it's co-production over full commissioning. Yes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Victor, I know we have African Magic Original films, African Magic Original series, and then, just licensed content. Again, for the question, what are the factors that get you to say, okay, this would be, maybe even if it's the film itself or from the idea stage, this could be an African Magic Original, or let's just commission a license?
I'm going to try and answer as directly as possible. If it's something that we can tell, it's one of two things. If it's something we can tell will directly vector to our audience, or it's something we're willing to take a chance on, aka we've never done one of these, this would be a great experiment, right? Then, as she put it, if it's at the idea phase, then that's just a request for commission, right? That's really just a pitch. That's really just a request for commission. And for us, all the commissions at this point are originals. But as she did point out, yes, with most commissions, you immediately forego the rights to whoever is commissioning, right? It's not a secret, it's not a, and a lot of filmmakers don't want to do that. So for us also, it's is this filmmaker willing to concede the rights? That's also a factor. If you're not willing to concede the rights, then maybe we'll talk about a co-production. And if we can't close a co-production deal, then it will have to be, I hope he finds a home somewhere else. And with no sarcasm, we genuinely hope he finds a home somewhere else, because we were interested in it. That's why we've been talking this long. But in terms of somebody walking in the door with something and we say, you know what, close the door, don't let this person leave with this hard drive. It has to be something that either immediately vectors to our audience and we're like, it's here already, we don't need to go reinvent the wheel, or it's something we just have never tried and we're just like, it's a good one to take a risk on.
Has it happened before?
Very glad, because I was at a FRIF last year. Very, very rare. Very, very rare, but the first time I'm fully aware of happened within the last 5 months, where somebody walked in and we're like, all right, we're keeping this one. They were in talks, but let's leave it like that. I can't say any more than that. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we won't ask for further information. Thank you so much. I would come to you, Mr. Gray. Your own question is kind of specific.
Sure.
So, have you ever acquired content from, a certain filmmaker, content creator, and sold it as an original content to a streaming platform or to any other platform?
In my time at the company, which has only been about 3 years, we have pitched things, but we haven't gotten anything that the different platforms have considered as an original. So I think that recently, some of the newer platforms have been asking for an original. They want to own it for longer than the period that we have it on license. So there's things like that are an obstacle, but it's also, it also depends on the very specific taste of who we're pitching to. So really, we haven't been able to do that yet.
Okay, all right. So time for, questions. We're going to take a few more questions before we come back to the session. We have 1, 2, 3. Get your questions ready, guys. You won't be seeing these guys on the road anyhow. All right, can we get the microphone to the gentleman over here? I'm coming to you. Microphone, please. I know you have a question. I'm coming. Okay.
While we're waiting for the question, I also just wanted to mention something just for filmmakers who are sitting here. So as a creative, you sit down and then you come up with something fantastic. So I would like to encourage filmmakers to look at the approach holistically. What do I want to do with this content? Do I want to go about the licensing route, or I want to go about the commissioning route? And live with that decision such that when you're going into market, you already know exactly what you want. Because I've met filmmakers who will tell you, oh, I don't want full commissioning because I want full creative control of my work, and I also want to be able to have it forever and also shop it around. So from the point, because we creatives are very excited, oh, I think this is going to be a hit and all of that. So from that moment, look at it holistically, not just about bringing it to life. Yes, bringing it to life is important, but also live with the fact that this is exactly what I want to do, so that when you're out in the market, you've already answered a lot of questions. There's no dilly-dally. You already know exactly what you want. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for this session. Very interesting one. I have a question for Busola and for Chris. Busola, I would say welcome to Nigeria. And I also would say...
I've been in Nigeria.
I also would say, what is Paramount trying to do differently from Amazon and Netflix? We kind of have an idea what tone of stories that Netflix is looking to get into. We kind of have an idea how Amazon likes to play, where most of us, or some of us in the industry, do not know what to expect, what you guys like, right? And also, Mr. Chris, I would say, what's the benefit of choosing you, right? Most people at the top of the Nollywood chain tend to have 1 or 2 access doors through aggregators or stuff directly to Netflix. So this is the first time I'm hearing of Freestyle Digital, and I think it's very interesting. My second question would be, for example, La Casa de Papel, that's Money Heist, that on the season 1 wasn't as big, and then people caught onto it, and then went on to do great numbers and investments. So my question would be, if I found something raw that the people on this table do not want or are not coming to terms with me, and I come to you and I take a risk and I sell it to you for $2 and you find a way to sell it for $20, would you be interested, or is it part of, or not part of what you would want to do to see that there's some sort of co-partnership that ensures that while you are trying to sell, maybe you have more ears in the room or eyes, while you're trying to sell, that when you come back, for me to go with you, that there's more benefits as tend to reinvest in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So,
Please, what's the question again? Okay, so what are we doing differently? Okay, so our Paramount were very big on collaborations. And I feel that's one major thing that is lacking in the industry. If you look at the major films internationally, by the time the opening credit comes on, you see like 3 film studios back to back, sometimes 5. In Nollywood, we don't really do that. One filmmaker carries everything, you know, goes to the network and just... So there's actually power in collaboration. And that's what we want to open the minds of Nollywood talents to. And we are doing it starting from us. So you have a good content that you want to sell. Let's have a partnership. Let's talk about it. Let's co-invest. Let's play together. So for us, that's what we're doing differently from other markets. We're not just going to give you money and say, okay, we're commissioning your idea, go 100% and bring it to us. No, we are in this together. Let's do it together. And that's why our slogan is FUBO, for us and by us.
all right, does that answer your question? All right, let's move on to Mr. Chris.
Okay, that's a great question. I think in terms of why you should go with us, I think we fill an interesting middle space. I think that there's not, like you said, we have other people in the room, we're in different conversations, and there's a possibility sometimes of kind of a second bite at the apple. Maybe you weren't able to sell direct, but maybe a few years later, things have changed. We have the rights. We were able to license somewhere else, but now they want to relicense from us, and it presents that other opportunity, and maybe there's another way to make money with us. Now, as far as future collaboration, and if we're able to kind of build on that relationship-wise, I think that I see every film I license as a potential relationship that I'm personally trying to build. I always tell filmmakers that I would rather have them walk away from a deal with me, but think that I was a nice guy, than feel like I pushed them into a deal that they disliked. So I really think relationship building is important, but in terms of any sort of legal obligation or financing or locking you into a development deal or doing anything like that, our company isn't doing that yet. It is something that our development team that is internal to another part of our organization operates very separately from me. And we're in conversations, but I haven't had a direct, like every once in a while, I'll ping them and say, hey, you should look at this filmmaker. Hey, we just picked up this film. Hey, you're looking for a director for this next thing you're working on. Maybe you want to consider them. But there's not a pipeline. There's not a, like, we're going to option your next thing because we've acquired this. Maybe there should be, but there isn't at the moment. So it's a more open conversation.
All right, for now, does that answer your question? Thank you. Okay, this lady in front. Mike, please. And after that, there's one here, someone, and then you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Ruth Kweti, Cameroonian filmmaker and actor. So I want to pose my question to Bisola. Sorry, I'm taking the heat today. So you mentioned with BET Africa, it started, there's a lot of South African content, it's expanding now to Nigerian content, and that's been very specific. But I am an African filmmaker, let me put it that way, because I'm from Cameroon and I work a lot in like different other African countries. So I'm like, is that door open for us, and what is it necessary? Because you say by us and for us. So for us is like, what, am I targeting Nigeria, or is it like Africa in general, or is it like diaspora, like what's the target?
So don't shoot me for saying this.
You're about to.
If we're being very, very honest, right? I'll leave music aside. Whatever TV show / movie that does well in Nigeria, I feel like the rest of Africa catches on. Even South Africa. In fact, sometimes South Africans prefer our content to their content. So yes, Nigeria. But the way we can incorporate the Cameroonians is casting. We can cast your talents on the show just so that there's inclusion, and then the other countries, you know, feel inclusive as well. So yes, that's part of the metric. Even East Africa, like East Africa, they sometimes feel left out, especially for our music platform MTV Base. Like we get notes where they say, oh, you don't play a lot of East African music. It's mostly Nigerian Afrobeat songs and maybe Amapiano from South Africa. So we actually get that flag on MTV Base as well. So what we're doing for that, I know we're not talking music right now. So yeah, it's content. So we're planning to create properties on MTV Base that incorporates other, African countries as well, just so that we are more united. And the best way to unite the continent is through entertainment. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Does that answer your question? Good. So we have one lady here. There's a hand up there. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Afternoon. My question is to Mr. Sanchez. So I'm asking based on storytelling for African Magic, because I remember when I watched Aurora Iya on that was like the first time I watched a beautiful storytelling that I've never seen before on Yoruba channel. So I want to ask, what's the criteria for the storytelling on African Magic?
Right. It's a little bittersweet for me right now because the producer and director of Uriah walked out just before we started this panel. Right. Thank you for that feedback. We are very proud of that show. The criteria, I've sort of said it earlier. We try to keep it as simple. Yes, we have a lot of internal metrics, right? But the one I can share openly will always come down to a compelling character in a compelling situation. Not interesting, compelling, that we can relate to, right? And I do think Uriah is quite relatable. Sorry we're having this conversation. Most people don't know what we're talking about. But it as long as it hits those metrics for us. So let's put it this way. By having a metric, the commissioning editors, myself, we don't have to decide because we like it or not. There's a fixed metric. So we may not like it. We had people internally who didn't get it when we were making that particular show. But it was a hit for the channel, so it's because it's for the audience. We don't make for ourselves, we make for the audience. But we are fans too, so hey.
All right, thank you. You good? All right, so, sorry. I can only take one more, and then this gentleman here. Except you give us room for one more. This one, second row. Can you stand up, please? Stand up. So two. Okay, good. All right, let's go then.
Okay, talking about South Africa, my name is Tando Shozi. I'm from South Africa, and quite excited to be here. Thank you for the presentations. However, just wanted to, there is Nollywood that caught on in South Africa and elsewhere. And a lot of things have been said about the quality and everything, but it caught on, and our people watched it in South Africa, consumed it like anything else. And my question is driven to the issue that has been raised on your requirements, your different requirements as a panel. And we are a developing continent, and I just wanted to find out, if you are not commissioning, which you say that the producers are complaining that they don't own, and you don't have enough development at the same time, how does a producer who is starting out really get access to be able to start? Because South Africa, I've worked at the SABC for almost 3 decades. Commissioning was working for that, to open a gate for new producers starting out to have an opportunity to tell their stories. That's the first question. Second question, Africa is complaining. We are tired of just being followers. We want to lead, we want to own, okay? And the genre of fiction is not the only genre. I work with youth, and we are licensing content currently from across the continent to broadcasters in the continent. Young filmmakers having the first opportunity to tell their stories. We are funding some of the filmmakers here. And documentary is a great entry into the space, and I just want to find out how many of your entities are looking into that. for our people to develop and have the first opportunities to tell their stories as people that understand the vision that we are driving into as Africa. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the first question and
Yes.
take the second.
I want to speak on the first question about new producers who are trying to get into the market or get commissioning. So to be honest, a fresh baby producer, you're not going to put all your money on somebody who hasn't really proven themselves. So I don't think the first thing is for you to be looking for a full commissioning for a project. So you need to build up your body of work. So meaning you need to work with other projects as well, you know, have a lot of things to put forward because at the end of the day, if I'm going to be investing in you, I need to know that my money is safe. Yes, because at the end of the day, it's not a charity platform. Like the TV network exists to make money at the end of the day. And it's with money that these TV platforms are even staying alive, you know. So yes, we want to encourage new filmmakers. So as a producer, I would say that you should grow your body of work such that you build yourself to a point where you don't even need to ask us. We'll be like, oh, we've seen something that you've produced. Come and do something for us. Because there have been situations like that where a network is actually the one that reaches out to a specific producer to say, I like what you did for that short film. Come and do this for us. So that's what I would say. So invest in working with other projects. And also, again, collaboration. Collaboration is something that we need to do more of. So you might not be able to stand as a new producer, but you can have an idea that an existing established production company does not have, but they have the expertise. So why not partner with that existing production company and you guys come together and pitch and work together such that fine, you're riding on the back of that person with your idea, but then you're seen as you're ready. So collaboration, that's what I would say.
All right, thank you. Then for documentaries?
Right, so let me answer for my organization, right? And this will be a pretty short answer. Thank you for the question, because that's the main question a lot of people ask, right? It's that whole, you can't get a job unless you have 5 years experience. You can't get 5 years experience until you get a job. It's really simple. One, nowhere in the world are writers commissioned for a show, or directors, or it's a producer, right? But the transition from talent or from a creative to a producer for some people is rocky. She's sort of already given the formula. It's collaboration. If you come into the room as a team, everybody on the team can't be new. It's too much of a risk, right? Every head writer in the world started out as a staff writer somewhere, right? You don't have to go and do 10 years in the wilderness. That's not what I'm saying. Second of all, in terms of commitment from the organization for development, I am obsessed with development. The show she mentioned, the executive producer started from our training facility. There are at least 4 people in this room right now. I won't look at them and make them uncomfortable, but they got their first commission within the last 12 months from us, right? So we are committed to doing that. How do you get that shot? Here's the thing that in Nigeria, everybody knows this. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? That's what they say. They don't finish the bottom half of that sentence. It's what you can do that determines who you get to know, right? Otherwise, why they know you in the first place? Build a reputation for something, somewhere. The rest will fall into place. Documentaries, not just documentaries, non-scripted reality. My slate currently across African Magic Showmax, my slate currently is 45% non-scripted and growing. We have 2 documentaries that we're releasing. I'm a huge fan of South African docies. So we are here for it, right? Yeah, so that answers the documentaries, yes. Traditionally here, it's not a huge format. Honest fact. It's something we're experimenting with. We have 2 coming out in 2 different, we're still rolling the dice to see how it works, but we'll see. But we are committed to that as well.
All right, Chris, do you take on documentaries?
Sure, yeah, I'll just say.
And do you take on new producers' work?
Quite simply, yes. The problem you highlighted, I think, is a key one that I think a lot of different people are working to resolve in different ways in terms of trying to find sources of independent financing. But documentaries specifically, if anyone has a documentary completed, feel free to send it over. Happy to consider it. I acquire a lot of documentary films, so would be happy to. So.
All right. She's happy. I can see the thumbs up. So this gentleman here, and that will be our last question for the day. And we'll just do a final. Go on.
No, but okay, all right. Good afternoon. My question is directed to Busola. You mentioned collaboration. Yeah, is there an expected level of investment required from the filmmaker for the collaboration to work?
Well, the ideal is 50-50, but if you have like a kick-ass content and you can't bring the whole 50 and we really want it, we can renegotiate. But what you need to have in mind is when it comes to revenue, we can't then obviously split it 50-50, you know? So it's the amount of money that you put in the project that would be able to split. So yes, why not?
All right, thank you so much for being with us. Before we just close up this session, we've talked so much about bringing in the content. Sorry, I can't take any more questions. We're out of time. We've talked about bringing in questions, get me documentaries. So I will just end this with taking one line from you guys. How can these filmmakers get the content across to you? I know Mnet has a submission link on the page. So just tell us how they can get the content across to you and their pitch decks across to you. We'll start with Busola.
I don't know if Don is in the room. Okay, so we have an email address. Maybe we should send it to Afrif. Yeah, so maybe that can be an easier way.
The Afrif, say you should call it.
I don't want to give you the wrong address, don't worry.
So it'll be on Afrif's website. Afrif would always do that. So
don't worry.
All right, Mr. Victor.
Right. I'm going to try very hard not to give the politically correct answer to this. Because I've been here a million times, I've been at different places, I've given this portal out a million times. So I'm going to keep it straightforward. If you are in this business, if you as for acquisitions, you've made your project, right? You've made your production, you already have it, it's ready to go. There is a whole department full of buyers, and there's a whole acquisitions department, right? Sorry, pardon me. Who in the room is a filmmaker? Can I see your hand up? Don't be shy, let me see your hand. Okay, if you don't know, no, keep your hands up, please. If you don't know, if you know where the multi-choice office is in Ilukweju, put your hand down. So you see the people that put their hands down, ask them, follow them. Now they follow who know road, right? And second of all, in terms of pitches, if you're also in this business, you have heard the concept of, we have this department of people called commissioning editors. In the realm of 6 degrees of separation, I am convinced, because there are some of them in this room right now. So for those who want to know, you will know. Look for the commissioning editors. Ask a friend to ask a friend. Before you ask 6 people, you'll find one. I'm telling you why. Because if I tell you about the portal, you will submit something to the portal. You will be number 9,675,000. Then you'll be asking me why I've not read it yesterday. The honest truth, you want the fastest response. You either show up at the office or find the commissioning editor directly. They are not hiding. They are looking for you the way you are looking for them. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Mr. Chris, how can they get across to you?
Wow, yeah, it's amazing how similar my answer feels to that. We have a submissions portal on our website. You can be 900 million. At some point, it all ends up in a spreadsheet. We do go through them all eventually, every submission that comes through. But it takes time. And if you want to jump the queue, so to speak, in terms of getting reviewed more quickly, it a lot of times comes down to, did you have a conversation with me? Did you meet somebody else on the team? I'm the only one from our team here. So really, it's just, did you talk to me? Are you following up with me? And then, are you able to, my question that I'll always throw back to filmmakers is, things like, do you have E&O insurance? Do you have these basic deliverables? Because I don't want to start a process of negotiation or going down and reviewing the film and trying to pitch it internally to my team and doing all of that when I don't know that it can meet the basic requirements that we need for delivery. So I think my conversation always starts with delivery, and then once I know delivery is sure, then the negotiation can begin and the reviews. So.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, our panelists, and thank you so much for joining us. Hope you had a very nice time here. That is it for the session. So if you have any other questions, if you block them for Rude, but thank you all.
Thank you very much. If you can just stay for a quick picture, and then we're going to head over to our next panel immediately. They're already there, they're outside, and the next panel is the making of a Nollywood
blockbuster TV series, Shantytown. So we have Iniedo, Nse, and the rest here. So if you can just all please wait, we will be starting immediately. And if you want to speak to any of these panelists, please meet them outside, don't meet them here. Thank you very much.